Wednesday, April 21st, 2021, we discuss the first in a series of Andrew Tarkovsky movies that will be examined over the course of the next month or two. This one today being 1972's Solaris. Not the George Clooney one. Today on the Daily Review with your host, me, Joe LaRocca. What's up, everybody? Pretty intense movie. One of them psychological movies, philosophical movies. It's Solaris. Yes, Steven Soderbergh remade it in, I think, 2002, roughly around then. And I remember watching it with John Pickering, and I fell asleep on the couch. So I don't really remember what happened. I saw this one in grad school, and I remember not really liking it, but feeling that I need to go back through my Tarkovsky movies as a reappreciation. Although some of them I did like a great deal, this was one that I just kind of was like, it's pretty good. But didn't love it. So when I watched it again, I didn't love it. There's some brilliant stuff about it. Essentially, I'll give you the basic plot. There's a psychologist who's being sent to a space station that's orbiting the ocean planet of Solaris. And there's just a skeleton crew of 3 people there, and they're kind of getting like crazy data back from them. So they're like, all right, why don't you go and just see if this is even worth keeping this space station open and see what the hell's going on there, and then bring everybody home or figure out what the hell's going on. And he gets there, and there's scientific explanations that need to be dealt with. You know? like there's still experiments worth doing. They are kind of getting crazy information, and there seems to be additional people on the ship. Although one of the main, the person he knew that he was going to see, has committed suicide, and there's only left with Dr. Snout and Dr. Solaris. And, his wife shows up. Our main character here, Chris. His wife, Hari, his ex-wife, who's been dead for 10 years, shows up. And he's like, what the fuck? And it's obviously that some sort of thing, that the ocean is sentient in some way. It's like an alien ocean. And in some way it is tying into people's subconscious and bringing about their memories. Brilliant idea. Awesome idea for a science fiction movie, right? And it's super duper mysterious, though. It doesn't really explore that idea for anybody else except for our main character. It's just kind of whispered about with these other characters, but it seems kind of special that Chris has got a wife, someone he loves, and now he loves her more than he ever did in real life and doesn't want to give her up. In fact, his first thought is to put her in a rocket and eject her away, and that's what he does, and you can hear her like screaming, and you're like, oh my god. And then she just shows up the next day, and you're like, oh. And then they do a blood test on her, and it like regenerates, and she's like, oh, okay, this isn't exactly my wife, but I kind of like her even more. And that's kind of the general plot of what happens, and them trying to him like reigniting a relationship with his wife, and then trying to deal with the other 2 scientists on what to do about the future of Solaris. It's very meditative. It's very hypnotic. In fact, it's kind of like the way I describe it. It's like the most and least sci-fi movies of all time. Let me make that make sense to you. It's got like crazy, huge sci-fi questions. Like we talk about this in genre films. One of the big questions that comes up in almost every science fiction film is, what does it mean to be human? So we got that. We got the big questions. We got time and space, and we've got potentially the idea of artificial intelligence. Even though it's an alien life form, it kind of acts like artificial intelligence. Like, what is consciousness? Yeah. evolution, guilt, longing, memory, love, fear, shame, all of those things kind of chucked in there. And uh, what do you come out with? Is I guess what I'm trying to say. What is all this stuff kind of combined to say? All these different sci-fi themes. It's kind of interesting because it's all the huge sci-fi themes, like I was saying, like the most sci-fi of themes, and then in the sense it's the least sci-fi because it's just like conversations. You know, it's like 3 hours of people just having philosophical conversations about things with AI, not AI, but with alien life in a sense, and idea, you know, all the things that I just talked about. So it's extremely sci-fi and it's not very sci-fi all at the same time, which is kind of a, I don't know, pretty interesting. Definitely a unique movie. If you're into sci-fi, you should definitely check it out. Certainly not Star Wars, you know? And I remember saying, hey, you know, like Logan's Run, how that's right before Star Wars and it's all super clean, and what Star Wars brought to the scene was kind of a grungy lived-in sci-fi world. Well, this, when they get to Solaris, it's like really kind of grungy, and like there's trash everywhere, and there's like these hard drives that are kind of like coming out of the floor sideways and stuff. And now that I think about it, that's the first future space station that I've seen that's kind of been in disarray. So I take it back. It isn't Star Wars. Certainly, yeah, this is not in the same vein as Star Wars. But all right, the movie that you got to compare it to, you know, the thing that's in this orbit is 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I don't want to sound ignorant or something, but I think that 2001: A Space Odyssey is like light years beyond this movie. Like, I think that like the technical achievements of some shots in 2001: A Space Odyssey are more impressive than whole sequences in this movie. And it was made, Solaris was made 4 years later, but less of a budget, not the same technology being made in the Soviet Union. I'm assuming they didn't have everything that was at the disposal of our boys making 2001 there, and wherever they made it, Pinewood Studios or whatever. Where did they shoot that? I don't know. Anyway, it's pretty, yeah, it's good. 2001 is just way better, though. It encompasses much more. In my opinion, it asks a lot of the same questions, but it doesn't answer them necessarily. Where I feel like Solaris's ending is kind of just like, it's almost like a horror movie ending, whereas I love how 2001 is just kind of branches open. In fact, Solaris is like the last 22 minutes of 2001 expanded into a 3-hour movie. You know what I mean? It's like that Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite sequence, but just in a 3-hour movie. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but I mean, I think 2001 is one of the best movies ever made. It's one of my personal favorites. I think it's still one of the greatest technical achievements on film. Like, if you compare that to Solaris, I mean, Solaris looks sloppy in comparison. And that's not me shitting on the movie. Just like the camera moves are nothing compared to what they did in 2001. But it's not the same thing. This isn't the special effect movie Solaris. And there's one of the best shots I've ever seen in film history that I've totally forgot about. Shepperton Studios, probably Shepperton Studios. Good point. There's this shot where at one point his wife, Hari, gets so depressed that she drinks liquid nitrogen or liquid oxygen or something and freezes and dies. And he looks at her, and then there's like this kind of convex. Okay, so I think that worked. Sorry, I had to restart there. Okay, yeah, Shepperton Studios. That makes sense. Shepperton Studios. Pinewood Studios, whatever, same thing. They're both in England, aren't they? So yeah, I mean, Doozle, you kind of recommended I watch this. What's your deal with this? You said it took you 3 times to watch. Yeah, I remember really not liking it the first time I watched it. This time I did. I appreciate how hypnotic it is. I appreciate some of the beautiful cinematography and the kind of humanist approach as opposed to 2001. 2001 is everybody's kind of robotronic, whereas this, everybody's got like a lot of humanity, and it feels like there's humans on that ship. Even the alien feels like a human, if you want to call it an alien. So I think that's pretty amazing. Yeah. Oh my God, we just said the same thing. More humanistic movie than 2001. Even Even though Tarkovsky said it was cold and sterile. Yeah. All right. So yeah, and every once in a while that might happen where I just have to restart it and get it all smooth again. Bear with me when that happens. We're still not in perfect streaming times, although I am fully locked in. What my guess is that the PlayStation 4 was left on and it's updating at the same time. That's when I get really a lot of lag. And I don't even play the PlayStation 4. That's somebody else in the house. But I'm a hardline in, baby. Yeah, let's talk more about this because this is a big movie. You can't just kind of skip over this movie if you're big into, and I kind of already been a little bit dismissive of it. It is definitely a beautiful, amazing movie. If you like Terrence Malick movies, you'll definitely like it. It's more pensive. Yeah, I mean, Tarkovsky said 2001 was cold and sterile. That makes sense. I mean, it is cold and sterile. I mean, the humans are supposed to be acting robotic in that movie. It's supposed to show the evolution. You know, that we've gotten to the point where it's like, oh, like they're not freaking out when it's like, open the pod bay doors, Hal. And Hal's like, sorry, Dave. He's just like, he doesn't like get furious. He's just like, He never, it's because he's as emotionless as the computer. I think that's one of the major statements of 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think critics that don't get that are, how should I say this lightly, fucking morons. Whoops. Yeah, no, Tarkovsky does. I mean, because it's more about love. Like, love isn't really dealt with in 2001: A Space Odyssey, and so they're very comparable movies in terms of them taking on these huge sci-fi questions, huge epic movies, but the performances are very different, and they kind of tackle some different topics. Yeah, it is a beautiful movie. It is a beautiful movie. And it's just interesting that so much is achieved just by people sitting around and talking, which usually is not the kind of movie I like. I like 2001 where literally it's just people, it's just going beep, 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 for like 7 minutes. That's what I like. That's what I want for my astronaut movie. I mean, but this is not fair. I do think that 2001: A Space Odyssey, it might be my favorite movie of all time. It's certainly creeped up the ranks over the years, and you know how I have a different top 10 list for what I think are the best movies ever made, and a different top 10 list for my favorite movies ever made. And I think that 2001 is top of both. Because I think two or three summers ago now, I saw it in the theater with Gotham and somebody else, and it was like there was two little kids in the front row in front of us. They were like 10, 11 years old or whatever, and they were super into it. And I was like, damn, this movie's timeless. This is so cool. Made me really, really happy. And then on top of that, 2001's got the music. Ooh, boy, the music. Well, the music in this is fine, but it's not great, in my opinion. But this is more horrific. Solaris is more horrific. The idea of getting into some sort of like nightmare loop where you have to watch a loved one die over and over again, that's some hardcore shit, you know? There's a lot of existential terror in there. Whereas I kind of feel like in 2001, once you're beyond Jupiter and beyond the infinite, you're just like, hey, Ray. It's not like you're just gonna die. You know, like you just get ejected into the vacuum of space and you die, or whatever. But like, or you're going somewhere crazy. You're going to some sort of next level. Fine, just take the ride. Take the ultimate trip. 2001. Why am I talking about that so much more? All right, let's see what some of the comments say. In Solaris, did you notice the way the camera circles the room when they have a conversation? Like you can't work out where the people in... Yes, there's a weird blocking thing where people kind of move to like different areas, and they like never, and I think that's intended to keep it dreamlike. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see if it starts up again. Sorry about that. We going? Okay. Yeah, 2001, I would recommend, if you can see 2001 in the theater the first time, definitely do that. But back to what Doozer was saying about the blocking, it's very strange and kind of, I think it's done intentionally to make it seem dreamlike and just to kind of keep, I don't know, I'm going to take a look at that again though. It's pretty interesting. But anyway, this is like my least favorite Tarkovsky movie in actuality. Not that I don't like it, but I liked a lot of the other ones better. And I think that I wanted to start with this one and then jump into some of the heavy ones. And I've never seen Mirror, and I've never seen Nostalgia. So I got a couple to actually watch. But yeah, I mean, if you can get to see 2001 in the cinema, that is obviously the way to do it. It's so amazing. I've seen it a couple times in the theater. I've seen the redone one. I've seen an old 70 millimeter print of it, or I actually think it's a 35 that's blown up, but it's badass, and it really makes you feel cool watching it. It makes you feel cool watching it. All right, today's episode has been brought to you by laggy internet, but it's also kind of amazing that you guys, some of you in Australia, Doozer, where are you from? Doozle, sorry. Where in the world are you from? Because we got people middle America, not middle America, but America, all the way in Australia, all the way to other parts of Boston. I feel much better, in case anybody's wondering, because I know that's what you were all concerned about. All right, I'm going to go play some music, and then I'm going to fix so that this internet thing will not continue to happen in the future. Oh, you're also Australia. You and Timmy should get together and, fucking throw some wallabies around or whatever. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. That's racist, all right? That's racist. Australian meetup time. Australian meetup time. Just you and one other guy. Hey. All right. Imagine if we got big enough to have a meetup. I would hate that. All right. Although I am probably just gonna move across country and live in the cavity at some point when we I don't know. We both get bored. All right. I finished all the Doritos. Bummer. Dude, don't start a rival channel. Stop, what the fuck? Do the nightly review or something like that. And do reviews of my reviews. It'll get really meta. All right, I'm going to just play music. right, I'll try and fix fix some of these issues here. What was that? I got mine for $450 used on Reverb in the US. You can buy it here and I'll mail it to you if you want. They got more popular over time though. Don't turn a scientific problem into a common love story. Peace.